I don't think confidence is that we can compartmentalize confidence like that apart from all the other things that comprise how we think. So that's my other objection.
Why can't
to the
we?
Scale. Well, I mean, in the abstract, we can, as long as we recognize the All right.
That was quick.
I did it before, so I kind of knew what I meant.
Yeah. Did you answer the same, do you think, as you did last time?
Maybe. Some of the middle ground ambiguities.
I wrote down a hard copy of the way that you filled out.
Oh, great. So let's see if I'm consistent.
Well, that's the thing. To me, like the way you view things now, I mean, if you changed your mind, that doesn't mean that you're being inconsistent. I don't think.
So do you have the two to compare, or you just have the one?
I do. I have the two to compare. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Though I don't think that I'm going to hold you to the way you previously.
I don't mind. I don't mind. Some of the middle ground I take is because of the uncertainty of certain definitions of things.
Right.
So I could unpack. I could pretty much. I'm confident.
Yeah, and that's what I think a big part of street epistemology is unpacking words and what they mean to us, and how to effectively communicate what we mean by certain things.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and now that you have that, there's also, along with this survey, there's like this list that I kind of threw together.
Yeah, I saw that.
Saw that. So first, before we go into the survey, I'm curious to know what you think about the scale of confidence that's often used in street epistemology. The floor is yours. What is the scale? What is it good for? How do you view the scale in your own head?
Well, I know that in Impossible Conversations and Manual Creating Atheists, it was used originally so that you could get your IL to say where he's at or she, and then after the conversation, you could get them to reevaluate that number, and so you go from 100 to 90, and it looks like you've made some sort of epistemic progress in the direction of doubt. Now that's how Boghossian and Lindsay define it. I know it varies from how people use it now, but I think I did 2 videos about Ty. I don't know what his last name is. Nice guy, who uses the confidence, who really, really leans on the confidence scale heavily to get some cognitive dissonance rolling downhill. So on the one hand, he presses it really hard, just like Boghossian would want you to. But on the other hand, it's a fairly conversational way to let your IL consider where they're at. There's nothing wrong with asking the question, I don't think, per se. But again, it boils down to the motive. Are you laying this number scale on me so that in hopes by the end of the conversation, not you, Nathan, in general, are you laying out this number scale so that at the end of the conversation, you want me to go from an 85 to a 75? Is that what you're wanting to use it for?
I'm hearing you talk about the motive of the person who's asking you questions about the scale.
I think that is involved with it. Some people, now like I say, I can't give you a blanket motive statement for why people would use it. Some people are generally like, if you don't want to use it, no big deal. If you just want to see you're confident, that's fine. Some people kind of get a little testy. Well, just give me a number.
Right.
And so it finally just does depend on what the person's motive is. If I can say to somebody, and this is kind of a test, Nathan, that I sniff out really to see if, especially when it's happening to me on Twitter and the person doesn't know what I know. I say, I'll just say that I'm confident. How about that? Well, I would really appreciate it if you would cooperate with me and give me a number. But in all truth, I don't know that quantifying my confidence really gets us anywhere epistemically specific. I'm sort of just throwing a number out there casually. in a really brief conversation that really hasn't really been examined. You sort of asked me for a number. I kind of go, well, and I'm just throwing a number out there. I haven't sat down and looked through my encyclopedia of philosophy and been able to come back and go, I'm a 97.327. So I think the specificity is sort of artificial. And so I think the better way would be on both sides, because if I said, and this, if I said I'm 100% confident that Jesus exists, I'm 100% confident that Jesus is God. In an SE review video, you all are going to go, oh, that guy's doxastically closed, man. There's no reasoning with him. He's at 100. I've seen these videos.
Now that's usually because, in my defense, that's usually because we're defining 100 is I can't be wrong. I am filled with answers and I have no questions left.
Right.
And when we tell people that's what we think 100 is, and then they attribute that to themselves after we define it that way, like from our perspective, it's them acknowledging, given that definition, they're comfortable with accepting it.
Yes, and I've seen that. So it works. I've seen a couple of ways. I've seen people go, give me a number. Bob says, oh, I'm 100. And then like Ty did this. So he says, well, give me a number. The guy gives Ty a number and Ty goes, then Ty defines the number. And then the guy immediately goes to like 90.
Right. And in Tyrone's defense, he tells me all the time that the scale is arbitrary and made up anyway. Probably more than any other practitioner. He's always telling me like the scale, don't be hung up on the scale. He's always telling me. Maybe I'm wrong.
And he uses it like it's gold. He really does.
Does he?
Now, he may, in the two videos that I will say, in the two videos that I did, I've watched the two videos, he does use it. He uses it like Boghossian said 9 years ago. Here's how you should.
So I'm going to reel you in. Okay, so we can talk about how other people do it, but what I'm interested in is I'm trying to practice theory of mind here. So I'm trying to see how you view your own mind. And so forget everybody else. Like everybody else, they have their own thing. I have my own thing too. And I'm actually like, I've got like a nuanced way of looking at the scale that I feel weird talking about because I don't know if everyone else sees the scale the same way I do. So I'm wondering if you have any scale in your own head. Or maybe I'll put it like this. What is confidence? Maybe that's a good place to start. What is confidence?
It's something that enables you to take action. Like I'm confident that if I gave my neighbor the keys to my car, it would be fine. If I was not confident in their driving ability, I would not do it. So I think confidence is something that gives you the ability to act in a certain way. In a nutshell,
the ability to act
in a certain way. Because if you're not confident, if you lack confidence, you're not going to take that job. You're not going to go speak in front of 200 people. You're not going to submit that resume. You're not going to ask that girl out for dinner.
Can I be confident in a belief and not act on it?
Yeah, but I think genuine confidence will ultimately inspire action to some degree. I think you have to finally, if you are resiliently confident in something, I think it would result in some kind of fruit, some kind of activity, some kind of action. You would do something about it.
Okay.
And that's just my 2 cents definition.
Okay. And then the follow-up question would be, is confidence in your mind, do you think of if you were to look internally inside your own head at the way you see or use confidence, do you think of it as a binary on-off switch, like you are confident or aren't confident? Or do you think that there's some in between, or is it a gradation between 2 points?
Well, I think even if I told you that I was 57% confident, that still begs questions. How am I quantifying this intrinsic property that we would know?
Now you're asking the real question there, right?
Yeah, no, how seriously, like what?
How confident am I that I'm really 75%? Maybe I'm actually somewhere else on the scale.
Well,
I'm
I
unable to
mean, for me,
recognize
you're
that.
asking me and what's in my head, and I say, well, if I tell you 57 or 75 or whatever, I'm
Yeah.
still, I'm still in the explanatory. I'm still I'm asking you, well, how would I actually demonstrate that my quantification of this thing I call confidence is actually even accurate? I mean, I can conversationally understand it at a very simple level, but when you ask me to break it down and distinguish and put numbers on it, and I think that numerical identity gives it some kind of artificiality of precision that's really not
So
there.
here's what's interesting from what I'm hearing you say, because to me, I'm thinking like the scale is, if somebody's asking a scale question, I'm thinking what we're trying to do is get is to encourage reflection on how we view our own selves in line with this idea, if we understand
Mm-hmm.
the idea the same way, and maybe we don't,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe my idea for what Christianity is might be vastly different than yours. And so maybe like figuring out what we're talking about is really important. And then after that, like when we ask about confidence, once we establish what it is we're talking about, I'm wanting to know like how much weight does this person put into their idea or their belief. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm hearing you say that there's your camera's off, so I got a little distracted.
Oh, it is. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Is that is it
Now it's
back?
back. It's back. And then I'm hearing you say there's a level beneath that. Oh, it's off again. There it is.
Sorry, I don't know. I have bad internet, so that maybe it's.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
I
Yeah,
won't
you're out in
sneeze.
a rural area, right?
I am.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say that there's a level beneath the level of confidence. And correct me if I'm not understanding you, because I'm actually, if I'm understanding you the way I think I am, then I think we're on the same page, that someone can have an internal assessment of what their confidence is in something being true, and they can be wrong even about their own internal assessment. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, I agree with that statement. My problem is my initial problem is with the quantification scheme. I don't think there's any way that anybody can demonstrate what a numerical value of confidence actually is. I understand it's an expressive conversational way of trying to gauge where I'm at with something, but I think it doesn't really get down to the content of one's belief. It is it's a psychological evaluation, which is part of, I think, street epistemology. Is you're asking, I would say, questions that have plagued philosophers for a long time. So it's hard to get a man on the street to really dig down to the bedrock of these things. But I think confidence, again, I would get back to, you would see the weightiness, as you said, of someone's confidence in how they act, what they do. Okay, I'm confident that there's going to be milk at Walmart, so I'm going to make the 20-minute drive into town to go get milk. Now, my confidence could be misplaced, but usually, generally, the background knowledge gives me that confidence that I can get in my car and do a 40-minute round trip to go get a gallon of milk because of prior knowledge. I have confidence that Walmart usually has milk. Now, sometimes they do. So it's background knowledge and experience that adds to your level of confidence. If you're not confident that a pilot can fly a plane, you're not getting on the plane.
Right.
So I think it is an intrinsic thing that we really don't think much about epistemically, but I think it does lead if you are confident.
So here's where I was going to go with this, and maybe I shouldn't go there anymore. But let me just tell you the kinds of questions I was going to ask was going to be about defining what 0 means and defining what 100 means, defining
exactly that.
And because I'm hearing you say like it's arbitrary, and I'm for the most part like agreeing with you, and that most people don't even think about what their 50 means or what their 40 means. And honestly, like sometimes I'm wondering, like, what does it mean to be 30% confident in something? Is that a hypothesis, or is that a hunch? Like, what is 30 on the scale? I'm not sometimes I'm not so sure.
Exactly.
So where I was going to go was let's say we're forced to put our, well, maybe you don't want to go here, and let me know if you don't, or if there's a better way to go with confidence, because I'm hearing you say it isn't necessarily binary, or am I making that up? Do you think that confidence is binary, or is it not binary?
Well, you're still putting a digit on it in some sense. You do like one or two, right?
Yeah.
One or zero.
Well, here's the thing. Can you be not confident in something?
You can have, I would say the expression I would be comfortable with would be a degree, but then degree implies numerical, quantitative reality. But here's where it's weird, Nathan. If I say you hear the confidence numbers giving in rounded numbers, right? So if I say
Sure.
I'm 37.725% confident that stars are made, what am I talking about with 37.725? What's the difference between
Well, that would be
and
the follow-up
30?
question, I think, for a street
Yeah.
epistemologist would be what is 37 to you? Does that mean, and then we explore that.
Because I think so let's take confidence with the idea of love in a relationship.
Okay.
So is love, we don't consider love to be on or off. It's a long-term commitment,
sure,
right, to something where
or I can love something a little bit and I can love something a whole lot, right?
Right. I can have now this emotional, it's the entire person. And so I think the other inherent problem that we're talking about, Nathan, and I think this is one potential problem for street epistemology that I've noticed, is a sort of, and I don't mean this crude or to be disrespectful in any way to anybody about it, but because it is a kind of a reductionist psychology where we want to isolate this thing over here and sort of box it in and put a little number on it and tie a bow on it and isolate it from everything else that we are. So I think that's a problem, and that's a giant problem in cognitive psychology. How do you isolate the variable of fear or wisdom or trust or any of the other components of our personhood? How do we extract that, the confidence? So let's extract confidence from love or trust or hope or joy or sorrow
or pain.
And I think, or pain, right. So I have less confidence in my ability to use power tools because I'm clumsy with it. Now, all I have to do to sort of overcome that would be now that involves fear, right? And then fear and uncertainty and pain, as you say, because you should see my thumbnail. I drilled through my thumbnail a couple of months ago. And extremely painful. I was being stupid with a drill. So what I think is problematic too, Nathan, is not only trying to quantify confidence, but trying to identify it in isolation from everything else that comprises our behavior.
When you go to the hospital and they give you a pain scale, do you think it's a waste of time?
Kinda, but if I'm in the ER, and I'm not going to argue with the doctor and go, "What do you mean, doc?" I just, dang it hurts. If you can't tell from my screaming, or if I'm sitting here calmly, I think I was in the ER last year for something heart related. It was fine, but there was no pain, but they could tell by looking at me what they needed to do and what not to do without even really asking any questions. So they knew I wasn't gasping for air. They knew I wasn't having, the nurse, they were so good at diagnosing from just triaging the patient just visually. Is this guy like freaking out? Is he squeezing his chest? Is he breathing? Is he blue? And so just by looking at me, the nurse could know what to do. She could tell me what's going on almost. So I think, like I said at the outset, I think there's some times where a numerical scale in certain times it's conversational. Everybody kind of knows what it is. It's a generic conversational technique. But I think it overextends too much. It's just too much.
Let me ask a more direct question that's a little bit more specific.
Go for it.
Have you ever thought something is true and you believed it, though you weren't confident very much at all? Has that happened to you?
Yes, actually. Oh yeah. In fact, I can be very frank and candid and say that while I'm very confident that Christianity is true, my epistemic cognitive dissonance, epistemic weakness is that sometimes I'm struggling with wondering whether or not I am a Christian.
Hmm.
And that's been a very real struggle all of my 28 years of following Jesus perfectly.
Hmm.
Um, and
Identity
so,
is a slippery thing, isn't it?
sure, sure. So
Sure.
I don't, I can empathize with people who struggle with it. Um, I've never, I've never struggled with whether or not Christianity is true as I've been a Christian.
Hmm.
I've only, my biggest cognitive dissonance has always been in my, so I believe Jesus, I believe the word of God. So, okay, why can't I believe that for myself? Why can't, if you believe the Bible did, then why aren't you believing it for yourself?
So
And
in
so
your own
that is
head,
a,
I'm wondering, let's go, because I want to talk about scales a bit more. I heard the answer to my question was yes. That was the answer I heard. Um, and so I'm wondering, is the scale something that you find to be useful to reflect for yourself or for your own benefit?
not really,
Not really.
not the numerical scale. That's
Huh. In
because as I said, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I just find that to be curious since so you have, and correct me if I'm mishearing you, though you have some beliefs in your mind in which you're very confident, it sounds like. And you have believed in things and been not very confident. Have you also disbelieved, positively disbelieved in certain things and not been very confident in your disbelief? Or very, very confident in your disbelief?
Yeah, of the last relationship, yes, yes,
Okay. So
yeah.
I think you and I think very similarly, like about our own internal state and how we sometimes are confident in things we believe and sometimes not so confident in things that we accept as true. And the
Mhm.
same goes for things that we accept as false or that we think might not be so true. So I'm
Sure.
wondering, um, and I think I hear, and I might be wrong, that your objection to the scale is that we could be misconstruing the number we attribute to our own confidence, or that we might be confident in the number that we give, and we could be wrong about the number we give. Is that what
Yeah,
I'm?
that and the non-specificity of numerical identity, and as I said earlier, the sort of identifying confidence like a slice of cheese, like it's a tangible thing, like a pen, right? That
Yeah.
confidence, we can isolate this pen from my finger, and talk about the pen, and talk about my finger. I don't think confidence is that we can compartmentalize confidence like that apart from all the other things that comprise how we think. So that's my other objection
Why
to the
can't we?
scale. Well, I mean, in the abstract, we can, as long as we
Yeah.
recognize the internal connectivity of confidence. I drew a Venn diagram, right, or a little confidence box. So confidence is there. I have all these other things coming off of it and intertwined with it. It's an interrelation, like the heart, right? It's like your heart. It's there. We can, but it's interconnected. Or your brain. There's interconnectivity in the neurons and things. And so I think it's somewhat artificial to sort of say we can isolate confidence like we can isolate an atom of carbon or a coronavirus or something,
Can we
right? Where you can look
approximate?
under. Yeah, we can, but I think the important thing is to keep. I know this is like a hermeneutical term, right? Context, right? We need context for our confidence, and I think you need the confidence exists in a hierarchical net of other interrelated aspects of our being. As I said earlier, trust and pain and love and sorrow and doubt and joy and sadness, all this kind of stuff. So I
Mhm.
think analyzing it in the context of its interconnectivity is also essential.
Okay. Yeah, and just to take a break from the scale talk for a second,
Sure.
I I have an Instagram where I post a lot of my artwork. I do portraits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I do portraits of, well, pre-pandemic, I used to drive Uber and Lyft, and I had
Yeah, I
a
did too.
nice. I had an iPad in
Yeah,
the back seat of my car, and it advertised my artwork. And as people
cool.
got in the car, they could go to my Instagram, and then they could send me a message and maybe hire me to draw portraits. And then I'd either send it to them in the mail or meet up with them later. And I drew
Very
pets and
cool.
people and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I love art. I'm a
That's really cool.
big fan of artwork. Uh,
Wonderful.
and so when I draw a portrait, I think of like, how am I approximating what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at?
Mhm.
And sometimes there's something wrong with my drawing and I don't know what it is, like while I'm drawing it, like either the
Yeah,
nose is like kind of off kilter or like something is weird in the face and I'm just not figuring it out and I don't know what it.
right.
So I set it down, I set it aside, and I go do other things, and I come back, and I'm like, ah, that's what it is. The left eye is low by like a half an inch, like way off, and so I like raise it.
Mm. Mhm.
And um, that's how I kind of view the confidence scale. It's like it's an approximation or a representation of where we think we are at in our own ability to draw what we think is really the case going on in our own head. And then, so this, we're talking about the layer beneath the confidence number, right? So like how to understand how we understand the number. To me, the scale can be anything you want it to be. Like I've had people say that the null hypothesis is 50, and I disagree with that. I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing. So I put 0 as my null, or 1 or something. Like low is like can't be certain really. And 100 in my own head, and I could be wrong about the way I'm doing it, though, to me, 100 just means literally can't be more confident. It's as confident as I've ever been. Now, there could be something that comes across my path that makes me more confident than even the most confident thing I can think of. And that would be my new 100, whatever that happens to be. Uh, and then all the numbers in between is just like how I view my own thoughts in relation to other thoughts that are elsewhere on that same scale. And so while it is pretty kind of sort of arbitrary, to me, it's just a tool for self-reflection. I'm wondering, um, if you do you find value in that, or or maybe I'll just make it open-ended, like what what scale do you adhere to in your own mind? Or do you have a scale that you use at all? Some people say like 7, 1 to 7 is their scale, and that one's fine too, because it takes out all the in-between numbers and it goes straight to the approximation, right? Like what a 5 is out of 7, um,
I would assess my confidence based on what I do.
based on
I can tell.
what you do.
I'm old enough and experienced enough to know that if I'm confident, I will do it,
Mm.
or I will refrain from doing it. Doesn't mean, I'm not saying my confidence means right. It means like, I was confident going into my conversation with Tom and turned out so well. I overestimated
I enjoyed watching it.
level, my level of patience with number 3, um, in thinking that my intentions weren't sincere, but not being prepared for other things. So I might have said I entered into that conversation maybe naively or with too much confidence, maybe. But I was confident, and so I took the step in talking to Tom, as I did, for all its glorious failures and whatever it was on my part. But I think I assess personally in my own mind. I assess that if I'm confident, I will take steps to do whatever it is, like public speaking. I have like 0. I don't lack any confidence, and this is a problem for me. I get up in front of 200 people, 300 people, or whatever. I'm like energized. I'm like, this is amazing, and I'm a little nervous, but I like don't lack any confidence. So that's kind of a fault because I love to speak, I love to teach, and so I enjoy that. But there are other things like that I'm supremely not confident in my ability, my interpersonal relationships with people, one on one. I am terrified. I am not a good person in person on one-on-one. So that's kind of a cognitive dissonance I have there. But I have very little confidence in my interpersonal skills with people one-on-one. A high degree of confidence in my public speaking, which can be a hindrance, Achilles heel too. You can be overly confident about stuff.
Maybe
you have too much confidence.
Yeah, so I also don't mind, like, if I'm doing like a really quick SE session with somebody and they just say I'm very confident, I take very confident to mean that they're using words. So like there's very confident, then there's confident, then there's not confident, and then there's very not confident. To me, that would be like 5 points, a 5-point scale. Would that be like the way you see it in your own mind, or
I
do
think
you
your
not even go
analogy.
there?
I think the analogy of your artwork is good. You know it when you see it. And I don't know how to, it's like a good artist, and you know this.
Yeah,
A
to
good
me, the
artist
numbers are like the art. So
they can be. It's a different kind of expression, but I think there's something.
Yeah, the numbers,
like
the number, and just to be, because I am trying to just interview you to see how you see things, and I'm just trying to. I don't know how to put this other than like express a little bit of the way I'm thinking about it. Is that we're trying to create a picture, any kind of picture, of where we think we are reflecting internally on an idea we hold, and how much we weigh our confidence in that thing. Now, are you saying that you don't do that, or are you saying that isn't? What are you saying exactly? Maybe I'm not understanding.
If I'm confident, I will act in accordance with my level of confidence in something. If I'm not confident, I won't do it. I won't go swimming in open water. I love to swim. I won't go swimming in an ocean. I'm not confident that would be.
So you're describing how you act after you are confident, and I'm wondering how you, before you act, how you think about where you're at. Or is this an unfair question? It might be. Maybe I'm thinking about it.
Well, would you agree that confidence comes from background knowledge, experience and background knowledge?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So there's always priors to anybody's activity. So literally, confidence, I would say, in answer to that question, I don't think it's unfair. I think it comes from experience. Like I can make my grandmother's apple pie without really looking at the recipe. Yeah, there's numbers involved, but I couldn't tell you. You could come into my kitchen and I couldn't verbally tell you how to do the pie. I could show you.
So with that, this is going to be like the weirdest scale I've ever thought of, but could we say like your mother's apple pie is 100 and 0
you just want to put numbers on
0 is anything but pie, right? Could we imagine such a scale if we wanted to create an artistic representation? What would
it's helpful for you? That's fine. If that's how you want to envision what I'm expressing, then that's totally fine.
So
I'm just telling you, for me, that my confidence comes from experience, and
so this is why you said, and you just pointed out, if it's helpful for me. So like, if my goal is to understand you, then I would like to know how you view the scale.
So you've been able to take what I've shared and sort of make your own analogy with it. So I think and that's fine. And I'm not going to tell if you've got that visual of pie, no pie. Go for it. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you can't use that. I'm just saying that's how I express it, and I couldn't tell you. I just can't put and some people say, well, come on, Dan, just play along. And I say I generally try to be authentic about this, and I really don't think if I
think you're being very sincere. This is why
57. I don't know what I'm talking about. What do I mean by 57? Like I swim 65 laps in a pool. What do I know what that is, but I don't know what 57% confidence is. I honestly don't know if that really helps you specifically. and I don't really know what I'm saying. And so really that's giving you some sort of artificial precision that I'm not even sure about. So
Mm.
I just say I'm confident, and if I'm confident, I'll act on something, and my confidence comes from experience and prior knowledge and background knowledge, and that's so. But I'm not going to take away however you want to visualize my expression of confidence level. If you want to go pie no pie, that's fine.
Pie, yeah. Well, the pie that your mother made, like
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same recipe that she would like take every pie she's ever made and average that pie. Come up with some abstract notion of that average
Yeah.
pie your mother's made. That's 100. And then, I mean, this is silly, a bit silly, though. I mean, it kind of is like a silly way to think about the way we think. And yet, I find it helpful. And maybe I'm misplacing how helpful I think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's
Are
not
you
helpful.
not are you not satisfied with the way I've expressed my ability to understand my own confidence?
Well, I'm only wondering how I could understand what it means for you to be less or more confident in anything. Um,
I wouldn't act on something.
if you wouldn't act
That's
on something.
yeah. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't confident. I don't date because I'm not confident.
Okay.
So
And is
I'm
that
not dating.
because our if we believe something, does it necessarily mean we act it out or act upon it?
Well, now you're talking about belief. I'm saying if I could believe something and be confident it's true, that that belief combined with confidence should lead to some sort of actual, living it out. Do I believe and am I confident in X?
Hmm.
That
Earlier
should
in this conversation, we talked about whether or not stars have been born
yeah.
since the dawn of time or since the Big Bang. And I'm wondering how you could show me that you act that out.
Well, okay, that's a good question. So I believe this. So I wrote a book, and we didn't talk about star formation in the book, but one way that I would act it out is that I would do research. If, let's say, somebody asked me to write an article, or I mean, you asked me the question, right? So I gave you my answer. Or if somebody asked me to write an article, or I have a published book, we do talk about stars, though we didn't address that question. One way I would act it out would be to do the research and publish the material and put it out there for people to read. That would be one way, which I would be if I had the opportunity. I would be confident enough to write an article defending why I don't think stars form as much as science might think that they do. So one way to test that would be that I would act on that and do research and publish.
Can
That'd be
beliefs
one way.
be internal in a way? Hmm. Okay. I'm wondering I'm wondering a lot about what you're saying. And I think that maybe that could be maybe the right way to look at it. Do you
I
think
don't know.
do you think that anyone can hold an idea and not act on it? I mean, did I ask
Sure.
this question already? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No. I absolutely. I mean, the other side of the coin is, of course, you can hold a belief and not do anything. And you
Can we
might.
be highly confident in something being true and also not do anything?
I think that would call into question confidence. If you're really convicted about something, and I mean, it just depends. There are some things that lay latent within us that maybe we're confident about, but what do we do about it? I should give more money to this charity.
Hmm.
Okay,
Is
okay, that just
belief
sits there.
is why maybe it's a why question maybe. Why is belief and acting connected in this way? Or can it
Because
be
it.
not related?
Can you give me a more specific example of what you mean?
Well, I just want to know if what can I believe something and not act on it? And I'm hearing you say yes. And I'm also hearing you say the more confident in something we are, the more we act on it. Is that right?
So I wouldn't disconnect. I would say that you can. I can believe that. I would think that a genuine belief in something being true would lead you to do something.
Beliefs are consequential. I will agree with you.
Yeah. And
Though,
that's kind of
are the
all I'm saying,
consequences
really.
necessary for the conviction?
Well, so if you're sitting on a belief and you don't do anything about it, you've
Sure.
obviously considered the consequences of it, I would
Like, I'm wondering, like, how someone can act. Can someone be highly confident that evolution is true or not true, and have that not necessarily affect really how they act or behave?
I think it in a large percentage of things, I think, Nathan, that, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but I think natural selection evolution is one big intellectual rationale for why people choose not to believe in God. I'm not saying that evolution
Hmm.
here in this argument, I'm not saying evolution is true or false at the moment. I'm just simply saying that, like Richard Dawkins, I don't mean to say that every atheist believes like he does, but he has said that natural selection gives him an intellectual satisfaction. And it gives him, he makes him an intellectually satisfied atheist. I think a lot of people embrace natural selection for that reason. It's intellectually satisfying, and it enables me to maintain my unbelief, if you will. Same with Big Bang naturalistic cosmology. It allows me the intellectual credibility to maintain my skepticism. Now, that doesn't say that they're wrong for thinking that, or that a belief is necessarily wrong or right based on the intellectual satisfaction it gives you. But let's say that naturalism for a second is true. Say Big Bang, no God; natural selection, Charles Darwin, no God; cosmology and biology, the cosmos and biological life all came into being by themselves. Okay, will that not affect your how you live your life? Because really, you've basically convinced yourself there is no God. We don't need God to explain these things. That will definitely impact your belief. You're not going to go to church. You're not going to give money to church. Probably not going to read the Bible. And various other things. Maybe you go on a crusade against Christians or something. But yes, those beliefs have maybe it's indirect or maybe it's directly correlated. But I think that your view of nature and the universe will definitely impact how you actually live your life. I was talking to an agnostic the other day, and he says, "Well, God, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't exist." I say, "Bob, do you go to church?" "Oh, heck no." And I say, "Well, okay, so in a true sense, you don't believe, you really don't believe there's God because you're not taking any proactive steps just in case, right? So your belief, really, what you're actually doing, is what I think you actually believe about God. So if you don't think God exists, you use naturalism to buttress that belief, then yeah, that will indirectly or directly impact how you live your life. So I think that belief does have consequences on how you act and live. Absolutely.
Okay. So I guess I'm just trying to see where to proceed from here. So I sent you a list of things that some fact claims.
Yes.
And so I was going to ask you to attribute some number, and we were going to attribute whatever scale you wanted. And I'm hearing you say it's very complicated to do that. And so I want to go where you go. So if you think you're more comfortable with just saying true or false next to each one, then that's fine with me. If you wanna give some range of numbers, I'd be happy with that also. What would you like to do?
I think confident, not confident would be okay.
Confident, not confident? Okay.
That sounds like that'd be a compromise for us. Wouldn't you say? That would be helpful to
Sure.
you. You can assess it
About
from there. Sure.
about why, like yes or no is true or not true. So just put a Y next to each one if you think it's true, and an N next to them if you think they're not true, and then
Well,
just
I would think I wouldn't. I think
yeah.
there's.
Just to be
I read.
clear, it's about whether your confidence that it's true. That's what I want
Okay.
to know.
Okay. So I would say confident, not so confident.
That it's true, right?
Right. Okay, I'll
And
do that.
and I'll just take whatever you want. So you can send that to me
Sure.
through either the messenger here in the chat, or you can send it through Twitter,
Okay.
whichever way.
Oh, so you don't, so it's not verbal, you just want me to check it off?
Yeah, just go ahead and just check it off.
Okay,
And
so I'll
I'll take
send it.
this opportunity to take a break and step away from the camera for a bit and let you fill it out and give you some time and just
Oh, is there a form? I didn't see the other link
oh,
to
it's
it.
not. I just sent you text through Twitter.
Okay.
So you can
And
just
so,
grab that list. I sent it to you today.
okay. Oh, so just go through that. So it's not numbered. So I'm gonna have to go back and forth between screens.
Yeah, I just gave you a list of claims or fact claims. And you can define these things how you think other people define them, or how you think you define them, or however you want. And yeah, and you can write not confident. You could say very confident. You can write whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so I will. I can't copy this into this.
Oh, you can't
Let's
copy
see.
it?
Let me see if I can copy it into
If it's easier, I
this.
can send it to you through the chat.
Let me see if I can do it through chat here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I can. You see
Boom.
that?
Yep, I see it.
All right, so I'll do it that way.
Okay.
All right.
All right, and I'm gonna step away and I'll be back in a bit.
All right.